much for the opportunity to speak to you this morning. I'll try and keep it as fun as possible as we go through. So at PricewaterhouseCoopers, we've been doing a lot of thinking about what the future is for health, pharma and life sciences as we go through. We've got a series of thought leadership which we call Pharma 2020, which is really looking out for 2020 and what really the challenges and the opportunities are. And I'm really excited to be presenting to this sort of audience today. Normally we present to big pharma with this, who are very, very defensive and see a lot of the challenges and how tough it's going to be for them. And I'm hoping with this audience that you can really see some of the opportunities, because I think there's a lot in your domain in terms of some of the challenges that I'm setting up here. So I'm hoping to see a lot of scribbling as I go through and visioning and dreaming, and I will remind you partway through as well. Introduction to myself, I'm a partner with PwC. I run a strategy group based in London where we help people on strategy advice, market analysis, and we also do valuation work as well. We've produced 5 papers in the series. Initial one really talking about the vision, but then delving down deeper into R&D, sales and marketing, business models and tax. Altogether it's about a 5-hour presentation. I'm going to do it in 20 minutes. If any thoughts arise or you want to find out more, either grab me, I'll be around until the afternoon break, or indeed look at our website. And these are all free to download, and certainly people find them very worthwhile documents. I also expect, just quite provocative comments as well. We've done over 400 presentations to various companies, presented to the FDA, the MHRA, and some people, say, well, this is quite challenging. This really fundamentally changes the way in which we're going to approach health. These are some of the issues that we see. So I'm looking forward to some robust comments on your post-its. So this is really the nub of the issue regarding healthcare. We've normalised healthcare spend by age, so everyone starts off at 1 when they're aged between 50 and 64, and you can just see how this deviates between different countries as people get older. So I guess the good news about healthcare is that we're living longer and getting richer and can afford more healthcare. Clearly the issue is we're getting fatter as well, so if you look at the growth of diseases related to obesity is quite significant. Today, 16 million people do not die of cardiovascular disease. By 2020, it'll be up at 25 million. And I think just look at the disparity between different countries here. The US, where an 80-year-old costs 11 times more than a 50-year-old to treat. A lot of that would say in the US, death is an avoidable consequence, and because of the litigious nature in the US, people attempt to treat and manage right up until the end of life. And you compare it with companies such as Spain, Sweden, etc., where you're down around 2 times the healthcare spend. So in terms of the global market for pharmaceutical drugs, we reckon it's going to double by 2020, from 700 billion today to around 1.3 trillion by 2020. Now, and I should say, I see people scribbling, these presentations are going to be available on the website, so you don't need to take a lot of the detail down. And I think the interesting theory here is the shift in emerging markets. Now, if we look at what we call the E7, Brazil, Russia, India, China, Mexico, Turkey and Indonesia, currently today it's around 12%. By 2020, it's going to become 18%. So a significant proportion of the population. And I think what's fascinating about those markets is they're not all the same. And you've got a combination of high net worth individuals willing to pay out of pocket for drugs, and therapies, really willing to travel for medical tourism, and also very brand aware. But also a lot of that growth is driven through healthcare reform. So India's growing at, say, 24% per year, but really that's through access to the rural poor. So people are starting off at a very low base. So I think the challenge for the global industry is how do you manage a varied market such as that? Now, is the industry up to this? Now, this is focusing purely on the pharmaceutical aspect of the industry, but I think as we all know, R&D productivity has declined in recent years. Over the last 10 years, we've doubled our spend in terms of R&D on drugs, and yet if you look at productivity measured by new molecular entities coming to market, it's halved over that period as well. Now, a lot of that is because people argue a lot of the easy targets have already been found, a lot of the products are Me Too drugs in the pipeline, and also the safety hurdles are rising. If you look at the issues concerning things like Vioxx, Avandia, the recent news there, again, those are raising up the hurdles in terms of regulatory authorities' scrutiny of new drugs coming through. Now, big issue for Big Pharma today is that there's a lot of patent expiries on the horizon. Big Pharma is probably a victim of its own success. through the blockbuster era, where a lot of people found blockbuster drugs. Those are drugs earning over $1 billion per annum, which patents are beginning to expire. The 20-year patent lives are beginning to expire. And there's an enormous cliff coming up, potentially in 2012, 2013, where some significant drugs are going off patent. The biggest one is Pfizer's Lipitor, which is worth around $13 billion per annum here. Now, it would be all well and good if the R&D pipelines were available there to fill the gap, but they're currently not. And so I think what we're seeing with the industry is a lot of change in direction and business models. I'll talk about that later, and how best to plug that gap, either by moving away from drugs and getting into adjacent technologies and therapies, getting closer to the healthcare value chain, and really more interactions with people like yourselves in this room, or also getting into generics and trying to benefit from that emerging markets growth that we see there. Now, one of the challenges for Big Pharma is managing a lot of potentially conflicting agendas. Government really looking for safety, efficacy and innovation, whereas pharma themselves is looking for new reward structures. You know, it's necessarily a 20 patent life. Is that how we want to be rewarded for innovation? Shouldn't we be paid for by success? So looking at different sort of IP structures there.